huge mess here, and I gotta clean it up. See, I just finished making 44 table legs like this. This is the stencil, and then here I made 8/4 first, and then I cut it out using a Frood up flute tracer bit. Now, this is for an order of 10 tables and 10 bookshelves for a local Montessori school. And then right after that, in fact, the lumber's coming today, we have to do 16 restaurant tables, which I have to put the hustle on because, we told them a certain amount of time, but the wood has taken longer to get here than expected. But that's okay. One thing for sure is I know how to hustle. Now, a few updates, because I know the content has been lacking. The first update is regarding the series for those giant maple countertops. See, we built that huge light, and I still might allude to that in the next video, but we're not going to finish the series because we built that light incorrectly. So instead of taking 2 minutes to fully cure a 16-foot by 8-foot area, it took like 2 or 3 hours to cure just like a 6-foot by 8-foot area. And I'll definitely include some of those clips in the next video, but I didn't want to just make like a 2 or 3 minute video kind of explaining how we failed without showing off like valuable information to you guys, because I know a lot of you are trying to learn about these UV polymers. And what I'll say now, though, is we have the right lights. So when we start these restaurant tables, I'm going to make sure to inform you right, because like I didn't want to lead you on a path to build a wrong light and then you kind of fail yourselves, right? But anyways, business is going relatively good right now. If you don't mind, I'm actually going to clean while I give you these updates here. But business is going very well, and the way it usually goes, at least for us, is we'll have a buttload of business. It never seems like consistent, but it's just like we start working and then everyone throws on an order. Might as well. Oh, you got 16 tables to do? Here's 10 more. Might as well. And like, an interesting thing about woodwork and then in today's society is that like nobody has any patience, right? So if someone wants tables for their restaurant, well, I'm sorry, not nobody, but most people don't have any patience. So if someone wants tables for their restaurant or for their school or for their house or wherever, because I'm not singling out anybody, they're like looking for someone who can do it in the shortest time possible. And that's understandable, right? Time is money, and then you only live life in one direction, so you never know what's going to happen. So you just kind of like want things done now. So where I'm getting with this is that like if we say no, or if we say like, usually if we say we're like a certain amount of time out, people don't even get back to us. And we're not in a position to be losing work. But things have been going really, really well. But here's the downside of like, at least for us, the downside has been after those really big peaks of work, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or whatever, it's always followed by like a month or two of like nothing. And those downs are really, really hard to get through. Recently, I had a friend ask me for advice because he wants to make the jump into full-time woodwork. And old boy is a space boy working for like Blue Origin or NASA or Tesla or SpaceX or something. He's making a lot of money doing that. But he doesn't like the lack of freedom and the bureaucracy and but he likes woodwork. And he's asking me for advice. And I'm over here like, I don't know if I'm the right guy for advice. I barely graduated high school. And I'm talking to Space Boy over here, who's like managing like a bunch of people working on spacecraft. Me? People working on spacecraft, right? Well, he still valued my input. So I said, really, it boils down to numbers. Can you support your life and your lifestyle? And then the ability to handle risk. Now, I've said this in the past, but I'll say it again for those of you who don't know. Tyler and I have crafted our lives in a way to not cost a lot of money to live. Like if it really boiled down to it, Tyler and I could probably get by, like not happily, but we could get by on like 2 G's a month, which is really low, right? Like we don't have rent or mortgage. We have to pay a yearly property tax, but if you like cut that up by month, it comes out to like, 380, which is low, right? That's 2 families. We wouldn't be living good. We'd be living kind of, bumming. It sucks living that way, but we can do it, right? If you have like a low cost of living baseline, you can do pretty much anything and tolerate the risk. But those slow months are like part of the reason we failed at scaling. And the point of all of this is for anyone who is looking to start a woodworking business or any business for that matter. And maybe you're not as responsible as other people like us. Maybe you have bad habits like us. And I'll get more into those later. But the key thing, if you're starting your own business, is making sure you have consistent work. And I haven't been able to lock that one down. It's either way the fuck up here to the point where we get burnt out, or nothing. Yeah. And if you're starting on the bottom, you're starting with you got to think about the lifestyle when you're starting on the bottom, right? You're more or less lacking things. We don't have necessarily reliable vehicles, which, well, actually, I kind of do now. But for the whole property, we got one reliable vehicle. Tyler's transmission went out again for the, 1, 2, 3, 4? I think it's 4 or 5 times now. And this, but this time we could finally afford to get it done right. Tyler's not just taking one out of a parts burb and throwing it in, or getting it rebuilt and installing it wrong so the torque converter breaks. Because we didn't know. Oh, in case you were wondering, if you're ever doing a Chevy transmission, particularly Suburban, from the I think it's the 3rd generation or 4th generation, 2004-ish. When you're putting that torque converter on, you're spinning it on. It's 1 click, 2 click, 3 click. That 3rd click is the most important one, because if you only do 2 clicks, you'll have a false sense of security, and you'll drive for about a day, and then the whole thing will break. But anyways, I'm getting off topic here. Classic. if you're starting your own business, you really want consistency. Now, one thing that I failed to know about when we were getting down on this journey, or maybe my pride didn't let me see it right, and Tyler would definitely agree to this, is that having a consistent source of income when starting a business, let's just say like a job, actually can prove really useful, right? Because you can do more if you can always pay your bills. And like right now we're in a good place, but in the past when we were building up everything, we would sink all our capital, which meant all of our bill money too. Which even if it's not a lot, like having to skip a week of groceries or something, like I'm not saying like we didn't eat, but like being able to skip, buying some things and just kind of like scavenging through what you got left in your house and like clearing out all the snacks and then just being like, ooh, still a little hungry. It kind of fucking sucks. But when you have a consistent job, and this is something I didn't say in the past, it's good. So if you have a job and you're thinking about starting a business, don't just like drop that job. Start the business. Wait till that business is really good and profitable, which, that's another subject that I could go on. Because like profit, anyways. And then wait till that job's profitable, and then wait till the business is profitable, and then drop the job, Because like, if you don't have a bunch of savings, and then you don't have consistent work, those slow times are really gonna fuck you up. So, all that being said, about, I don't even know how many months, but let's just call it 6 to 9 months ago. I don't know if it's been a year. Tyler and I started doing renovations for a local or for a statewide grocery chain called Publix, right? And so we're subcontracted out by another company, and we really scored this job just because of Tyler, and he was, one of his uncles happens to be like, one of the more or less bosses of this whole little thing. And the work was at night, And when we started this, we were at actually one of those down slopes. We hadn't had work in a month or two. And up until that point, we were like so against working for anybody. Like, fuck that shit. We're not working for anybody. And it was a very big pride thing. We got our business, blah, blah. I'm not even going to go into how dumb our reasoning was. But, after doing it for a while, we were like, well, maybe it's not as much money as your own business. But having that consistency is it's nice. It's freaking nice. That being said, I actually recently, I'm taking a hiatus off of it right now because we have so much work right now. But Tyler and I agreed that he wouldn't. He would focus on keeping that going. So we have the consistent income, and then I will burn through all this woodwork that we have to do to try to come up. But now that Tyler's transmission went out, I don't know how much we're gonna come up when all said is done. But that's okay. That's life. Now, in a few years, we should be okay. So when we started, let's just say we started at like -10. And that's when we were doing like farming and handyman work and various other things. And by the time we got to woodwork, we were at like -2. And then, like a couple of years into woodwork, kind of got to -1. It's a very, very hard struggle to get through the like negative part. But whenever we built this shop, whatever time frame that was, That's when we finally got to like just ground level. And you're like, sweet. And then we started having fun, started doing real good in business, and that shit is awesome. Like having lived low for so long, even just being in like just on ground level is so satisfying. And having done it mostly because we didn't have a work, mostly ourselves, with some help though. We can never repay our business mentor, Steve, for all the doors he's opened for us. And like Tyler's grandpa and grandma essentially sold us this land for pennies on the dollar, which, those two things were like the game changers for us. And then being able to start this Publix work was another game changer. Shout out to Melbourne, because that consistency has allowed us to have the biggest growth in the past 3 or 4 months that we've ever seen. Again, we're doing a lot of work now, and we've been able to do a lot of things in our life that we hadn't been able to do before. So the whole point of what I'm saying, to anyone out there who wants to be a woodworker like us, which I don't know why. I know why. It's because like everything looks cool and easy on video. But don't quit your job right away. That's for sure. And you really gotta find that consistent niche within woodworking if you want to do this full time. Steve, our business mentor, is still telling us to find something boring and easy to do to make that consistent money in woodwork. And he's like, stair treads. And I'm like, bleh, stair treads. When we made those 300 cutting boards and 300 coasters for a federal contract, that was so lame. Now, we could always start that back up because, I realized we were charging super cheap, and they realized that too. So even when I told them, like I was trying for them not to come back, which is bad business. Maybe don't listen to me. But I was like, yeah, how'd you like the order? The first thing you want to do is like on a federal contract is make sure they were happy. They were happy. And they came back for more. And I'm like, well, this time it'll be at least 25% more. And they said, no problem. And I was like, fuck, we didn't charge nearly enough then because they just jumped on that. So I actually ruined that one because I never got back to them. And I'm sure in that kind of industry, once you fuck up, there's no going back. Oh yeah, that's another good point, because I'm gonna digress a lot. I'm gonna tangent off a lot, but you can't burn bridges and expect to rebuild them quickly. That's in any part of the industry. But some bridges need to be burned, right? Like if someone's disrespecting you or treating you as subpar, you better burn that bridge, because you're living life with like those feelings is going to be more miserable than the lack of money. Because one thing for sure is the not having money sucks. Sorry about that. Hope you enjoyed your eardrums being busted. anyways, the lack of money sucks, but it doesn't suck as much as, not having integrity. At least that's my opinion. Other people will disagree with me through their actions. But I definitely am not a fan of people who belittle Tyler or I. So I'll burn that bridge in a heartbeat. And the way we usually do that is like, if a customer disrespects us, then I issue them a full refund. I don't care how far we are in the project. But see, like, that has cost us a couple times, Like, there was one time where we were starting a, like, $4,000 really cool entertainment system, all walnut, and it was supposed to, like, slide and stuff. But the lady just kept dogging us and dogging us and dogging us. So at the time, we and most of the time still, we require full payment up front. So I issued the full payment refund. Ouch. $4,000. And when you're broke, boys, that one's a tough one. That's a tough cookie. And but it was for the better, Like, I don't regret it now. But the financial hit is tough. It's always tough. Well, so my whole point was we started that Publix thing however many months ago, and that's kind of where you can see the content kind of slowed down, because like getting used to working overnight and then also doing all the woodworking business is kind of like hard to get used to, and then on top of that, like making videos after that is kind of harder. And I didn't like that aspect of it. Like, I definitely didn't enjoy the lack of content because, like, we're just building up. We just got monetized after however many years. And then, like, when we finally came back to making videos, like this giant maple countertop series, like that big gap, you could see how it affected us. We went from, like, kind of decent views to like sub 1,000 views, even though we have, like, I don't know how many subscribers now, but like almost none of them see our videos. And I don't understand why. I think they're good videos. But obviously they're not. That's how that works. Never think, like, even if Tyler and I think it's a good video, it doesn't mean it's a good video. Now, it might be a good video to us personally. But like, really, the YouTube algorithm and your audience is going to tell you if it's a good video. I guess I'll tangent a little bit on that. One thing that has also been a detriment to our content, I'm looking for the dustpan right now, is is particularly my fault, which is I use music that doesn't necessarily go with our target audience, right? Like, our target audience is woodworkers, even though, and that being the case, I like to listen to funk and rap. Tyler likes to listen to some heavy metal stuff. And most of you guys do not enjoy that. Now, I'm not saying most of you, maybe like at least half of you. At least our older audience, the older people in our audience do not like that. Man, where is this dustpan at? It's a key ingredient to clean the floor. Oh, there it is. And then the other thing that's been my fault is the use of language. And like, people are like, oh, you should slow down on this, and then our editing style, like, we're not as informative as others, and for good reason though. Tyler and I both think we're in no position to teach anybody, or at least we used to think that. Now, I know we can make a decently flat board consistently, so, I think we can teach people how to make flat boards, whether it's, this big or 12 foot long. But, it's not complicated. There's other woodworkers out there who can do all sorts of cool stuff, and they do it, and then they're really good at like teaching you how to do those things. Tyler and I are lacking on that front. But all that's going to change. Now we have the time to make content, and we kind of know what we're doing. So this next series for the 16 restaurant tables, we're going to do a real good job. Oh, here's another few business updates, and we'll never make this mistake again. We made some videos about how we were working with Taki and Tyrone, and that went to bite us in the butt. I'm not going to get into too many details because I'm never trying to slander or disrespect nobody. But it didn't work out. It didn't work out, and it really sucked with Tyrone because we had built this really cool. Well, he built a really cool finish room in his shop, state of the art, just like one we'd seen at IWF with the filters and the lights and the doors. Tyler and I probably invested at least $5,000 in materials in that shop, but didn't work out. Didn't work out, and that's a whole video series that I had edited that, I'm not going to publish now, which is such a bummer because it was so cool. So that was kind of like a hit. And we kind of decided after that point, which we decided this in the past, but somehow this happened again, that we really can't work with anybody else. However, that being said, there's this guy in Sudan. His name is Akech. What's up, brother? If you're watching this. He is in South Sudan, and he's a woodworker, and he builds these cool things with basic tools. He messaged me the other day that his lights weren't working. That means he doesn't have reliable lighting to work in. Imagine that. But he's hand carving these beautiful beds. He's such a better woodworker than Tyler and I are, even put together. We know how to make a flat board and we know how to work fast, but we don't know how to hand carve beautiful details in a handmade, king size bed. But this guy does. And I'm going to work on, I think I'm going to work on getting him here, but that's a huge risk. That's a whole different level than working with someone with Tyrone I digress again. The whole point was, the whole little tangent was, Akech, awesome woodworker, and I'm thinking about working with him. But anyways, we had published these videos about working with people. And that's another piece of advice that I'll give anyone starting their own business. And you don't want to get employees too soon because we've went broke a couple times trying to pay them on the slow times. When you have tons of work, there's no issues. You pay them, you move on, you go to the next job, you keep paying them, you keep making money. But when the slow times hit, two things will happen. Either you'll go broke trying to, keep them paid, and there's no work, or they'll leave because they need money to live. Not everyone's in the position that Tyler and I and can afford to just not work for a month or two. So if you're going to start your own business, you better wait till you really have that consistent, reliable profit and enough margin in there that look at it this way. Can you handle paying an employee, at least $500 a week for 2 months without any work? If you can't do that, don't get an employee. And then working with someone, like in Tyrone's case, you really can never know who they are until those slow times hit. You know, because like during the good times, everyone will be happy. But it's during those slow times where, you know, the stress builds and you really find out who people are. And they'll show themselves to you. So, and you might be thinking, like, what about you and Tyler? Tyler and I are an exception to the rule. There's, you know, even to this day, like if we have any issues, we like just talk about. Like I don't know why it's crazy, but Tyler and I are just an exception to the rule. We work really well together. You know, on everything. Any of his problems are my problems, and vice versa. And it's always been that way. And so if you're going to work with someone, you got to have that mindset, and you got to be able to, like Tyler and I, for the first, I don't know, up until recently, really, spent at least 12 hours a day together. It's a lot of time. And, you know, we've never really had a fight. You know, we've had disagreements. We've been salty with each other. But we've never had a fight. And we've always worked everything out. And, you know, like there's no... And even in the times where we had no reason, like that's the best way I could put it. There's no reason to support the other one. Let's just say, like, you know, one of us, I'm making something up here, but let's just say one of us did something wrong and it was a mistake. You know, we still had each other's back. Or if like we couldn't do something, but it wasn't the other person's problem, we made it our problem. And you know, with that mindset, we were able to achieve a lot. Because one thing for sure is if you do work with people, the more minds you have, it's absolutely the better. In my opinion, you know, like a singular mind is one brain, but multiple minds is multiple brains. And if you have multiple brains, you can rest assured that you'll have more ideas. And then also, Tyler and I have different skill sets. So it's like, you know, maybe I do a lot of the talking and I like push a lot of ideas. But without Tyler, none of my crazy ideas would have ever happened. Like, just let me show you this. This is a great example of how Tyler is a freaking pro. You see that right there? Yeah, let me get a little closer. I'm on a tripod, so I don't want to really mess it up. See this thing? Hopefully it's not too blurry. That motor right there is the one that it came out of like a vacuum, like that guy up there. But this is a knife grinder, I think 72-inch or 42-inch, whatever that belt is. But he looked at that pile of scrap down there and he said, you know what, Tony? I'm going to build a badass grinder. And look at him. Look at him. You know, and then you see those rafters up there? He built those. I can never do that shit. Not even if my life depended on it. But, you know, those skills right there of his has saved us so much money and allowed us to do kind of like things we would have never expected to do. And and then I'll come up to him and I'll be like, hey, what do you think about doing this? And Tyler's like, I've never done that before. I'll be like, oh, okay. So what do you think? Can we do it? He's like, sure. And he gets it done. You know, and then like my strengths are kind of like finding work and advertising and marketing. coming up with like solid ideas that like fulfill our desires. You know, like whatever Tyler wants, I want it. So, you know, he says something to me. It's something that I'll just keep in my mind so I can move that agenda forward. And man, it's really weird how if you like know what you want, you can make it happen. But anyways, that's enough on that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is, and this is a weird one, but I think it'll help me stay consistent. About 3 weeks ago, maybe a little longer, I decided to quit THC and nicotine. And as a 13-year heavy user, it was definitely a lifestyle change. And so I kind of wanted to talk on this for anyone else out there who you know, might go down that path, because it is a hard path, but so far it's been worth it. When I say heavy user, I'm talking like 2 or 3 grams of dabs a week. You know, 1 or 2 Nick sticks a week. And those vape sticks, whew, I don't know if they're any better for you. They didn't feel better. And I wish I could say it was for like, you know, some righteous reason, but the truth is, after I got coronavirus a while back when, you know, when it was all a hype, my respiratory system was never the same. You know, it was a weak boy now. And, but I continued, like I took a little break then and I continued. But recently I got like a cold or something, not even coronavirus. And it like made it worse again. So the reason I quit all that stuff, and it's even edibles when it comes to THC too. Like I thought edibles would be like, oh, I won't be, you know, inhaling anything. Well, it still gives you like, it still dries out and it still does whatever it does. You know, and I couldn't sleep because I was coughing so much. And then over time, now that I've quit, I'm finally to a point where I'm not like coughing all night. Now, another big mistake that probably also helped fuck up my respiratory system was the first couple years, up until I made that with Tyler, up until we made that the world's biggest Purple Heart table for Triple L Rustic, I hadn't been really consistently wearing a mask. We would only put a mask on when it was like the worst, which was bad, you know? Like, if you go back to that video of us making the Purple Heart table, you can see me like routering or using some tool, and the Purple Heart just fucking hit me in the face. And Purple Heart dust is so bad for you. Like, I should probably be wearing a mask right now, but you know, I'm not stirring up a bunch of dust, so I'm risking it for the biscuit. But anyways, I basically quit weed and nicotine, and I can tell you that it's really, really hard here during the 3rd week. It's actually harder than the rest of the time because, you know, I can do it. You know, it's right there for me to do, but you know, I was so used to it for so long that you know, it's like a constant. It takes constant self-motivation to like get through it. But when I first stopped, the immediate side effects you can expect is like insomnia, and some people, like a lot of people I know, will get a lack of appetite. That one didn't happen to me. I still eat like a champion. But another one that I never expect to happen to me was like fits of depression. Like last week, I was supposed to be doing these like legs last week, and I went through a fit of depression for like 3 or 4 days, and like I just really couldn't. So but one thing I did start that's also helped me through this is I started a garden. I built a shade house, and I started a garden. And I'll tangent a little bit into that. I have these woods over there, ebony macassar, African blackwood, Gabon ebony, and then Amara ebony. And I got these pieces right around the time we were finishing up the TNT clamp racks, which I got to make an update video for that because Bidwell Wood and Iron took over that product, and they make it so much better than we could have ever made it. And they cut out our logo on it. You know, like they're still giving us the props, and they throw us like the same percentage any other influencer would get for selling them. But they're doing a great job. Like Tyler and I could have never, honestly, Tyler and I couldn't have kept that going by ourselves. You know, after we made the first 30 of them, I think, we quickly realized that, you know, like we're not set up to manufacture metal products. You know, we had spent so many years building up our wood products that like now we gotta build a whole new shop and get all these metal tools. Now, but Bidwell, they got like a sweet laser. They just cut out all the parts out of this like A16 metal that's like pretty thick. I'll show it in another video. I'm not gonna go get it right now. It's kind of heavy. But you know, it's more perfect than we made it, more durable than we made it, and they have a big reach. You know, so they're able to ship it all around the country. They're set up, and so we still help them promote it. It still has our name on it, you know, which is good for them. You know, like Bidwell has been good to us, real good to us. Like they just sent us another, I don't know, at least 42 pieces of C-channel for this restaurant table job, and they're really good sponsors. You know, they've always been good to us. So it was like a no-brainer for us to give that product over to them. And I don't know if I told you a while back, but we're still working on getting the funds in order to be able to get that wood from them, because they're offering us a hell of a deal on a whole truckload of lumber. You know, and they're not offering this deal to anyone else. And as soon as we give them they're asking for maybe 1% of the wholesale value of this lumber to send it to us. It just covers the shipping. You know, a whole truckload of lumber for pennies, maybe a penny on the dollar. Let's just put it that way. And we can't come up with $5,000 to save our lives. And you know, Tyler's transmission just went out, so like my whole plan was to finish these 2 jobs, and then we would have the money. But now we're going to be half short, so I don't know. It's tough, but we'll figure it out. We just got to keep consistent, keep working. Now that we're getting this transmission done right, it should work out. But anyways, if you're gonna quit weed, like me, and you've been a long-time user, like me, it is not going to be easy. And there's so far, because it was such a big part of my life, I don't know if I can say it's like better yet, but I know in the long run it will be better. But the biggest thing that I'm upset about quitting weed is the lack of creativity. And that's the hardest part, because like I finally wanted to sit down and I have the time to make these videos and whatnot, and I just can't do it. Like writing the script and then voicing it over and being able to edit, it's definitely harder now with this new mindset. However, it is changing. Yesterday I actually edited a video that I'm proud of. Just a short. It's not a YouTube video. I know you guys are like, what video? But I actually felt creative that time. And so, what's the point of sharing all this with you guys? Again, it's for anyone else out there who maybe no one will see this, but that's okay. But if you do see this, know that you can do it even if it fucking sucks. And I don't have any morals against people who do any drugs for that matter. You do you, boo. You fucking knock your rocks off and you enjoy that shit. I just can't anymore, which it's probably a good thing. I've also been facing a lot of different things in my life that I bottled. I kind of like didn't think about because I was high. That's okay. It's probably good too. Maybe in the future, this will turn out to be a good decision. Because that's, if I'm being honest, that's probably another reason we were having a hard time coming up with capital. Because when you're an addict, and I swear to God, if anyone's like, oh, weed isn't addictive. Weed is addictive. Every drug is addictive. Like, I don't skip a morning still of drinking 2 cups of coffee. I got to get that right amount of caffeine, which is a drug, to feel the pep. And I do have intentions of quitting caffeine as well. But I am in no rush there, Papi. No, sir. Because at the end of the day, even with caffeine, but mostly with nicotine, and then also with weed, I would sometimes, maybe almost regularly, kind of have this feeling of like, why do I need this? You know what? Today I'm going to say no. Today I'm not going to hit the next stick. Today I'm not going to do any dabs. And then like 30 seconds later, And like that's super demoralizing when you do that shit. It does not feel good to be weak. And I'm not saying that anyone else is weak for doing any other drugs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm weak because I stated I didn't want to do it, and then I still fucking did it. And then when you'd run out of drugs, you try to find other ways to do other drugs to compensate for that hole. I just hate that shit. Fucking drives me nuts. Oh, what you see here is we needed a router table, so I just cut a hole in our ambrosia maple table here. And I screwed a router to the bottom, and I called it a router table. It worked like a charm. I got all these legs done. But that's kind of how it is. So I think the future is bright from here, even if it's hard. And now, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is the most positive thing I think I can help people with, is how to actually make money with woodworking. Because, there's a lot of grind set mindset people out there that are like, wake up at 4 a.m., and which I do that, but it's not because of that reason. It's just because I have insomnia, right? But the most important aspect, classic. We'll let the train pass. Well, it's going to happen a couple more times. Don't you think it's over. Just wait until I start getting into it again, and then it's going to honk its horn. The most important part to having a profitable woodworking business, in my opinion, is there's two important parts, I'd say, actually, because I was about to say only important part, is know your strengths. So Tyler and I's strength is finding the most efficient way to do stuff. And that's not because, and the reason really stems from we always want to get back home to our families. So like, how the fuck can we get this shit done right and fast and we're done with it? Well, that's turned into a skill, actually, where, whatever we do, we can figure out how to do it really fast and really well. So, like these tables, we gave people like a 4-week notice, but really in total time I'll spend on it is like, oh shit, I'll really only spend like a week doing this. Like I spent, I don't know, one day getting those tops done, another day getting these legs done, and today I'm gonna get the skirts done, and the tops aren't all done. I actually, this is one secret to efficient tabletops, right? Especially if you're working with thinner wood, you make pieces that fit through your planer before you make the final size. Now, if you have a CNC flattener like our old buddy Trey does, you can just glue up the whole thing out of basically raw wood as long as you have the edges flat and straight, and then you can just flatten it. So that's even faster. But if you don't have a CNC and you have a planer, you make boards that fit through your planer, and then you glue up the final one, because that's just going to save you a lot of sanding on these ridges. And man, if you have a wide belt sander, woo! So you want to capitalize on your strengths. And so let's just say, I also have a friend. I'm going to leave it at, his name is Robert. I'm not going to try to say his last name, even though that's how you would know him, because I will butcher it, and I'm not trying to disrespect nobody. He's more or less like a woodworking artist. There's no fucking way in his life he could produce the same amount as Tyler and I. He's not fast. He's not efficient. But he's really good at making art. When he makes a table, I can't even describe it right. It's just art. And he's getting better and better. You can see through his craft how he's refining his skill. And that's his strength. So he's playing on that strength. Other woodworkers, they don't, like my buddy Steve, shout out Steve, also couldn't be here without you. Your moral support has been fucking awesome. He makes stuff like that. And he does that stuff all the time. It's good stuff, He's good at that. And then, Trey's strength. Trey is from Triple L Rustic. His strength is he got set up with a nice property and mill, and he has access to tree services that just dump logs at his place. So and he's getting better. He's definitely getting better at woodwork and all that stuff. But he can mill and dry almost unlimited amounts of wood. Every woodworker is going to have different strengths. So whatever you find your strength to be, my strength isn't necessarily woodwork, actually, my own personal strength. It's marketing. If that's not obvious. You know, so like if you're good at marketing, fuck, you can find a lot of work most of the time. And like I said, there's slow time still. And that's kind of what I want to leave you with. I'm pretty much done cleaning up this big ass mess. I got to do some loud stuff now, so there's no point in continuing this live stream. But I hope, if anything, somebody was entertained by this. More content is coming. Better content is coming. And maybe it will be even more informative. But here's what the next video, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to do a series or one video yet. It's going to be on these 16 tables. They're going to be out of 8-quarter maple, which the wood's coming today. Finally, it's coming today. We're going to be using clean armor, not vestings, which, subnote, vestings got bought out by a company called like Chimavir or whatever. And that company's such a fucking scam. They're trying to nickel and dime everyone for every reason. Right? One thing I'll say, and if I'm being honest here, we are sponsored by Clean Armor. We are not sponsored by this lighting company called Kuvo, but they did send us these 2 lights to try out, so I have a bias, right? But nevertheless, Chimavir sells this light that does 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch for $1,000. And it sucks. And then Kuvo, right, selling this light that does 36 square feet at once for $400. You do the math. You don't even need to do the math. And then Clean Armor, and I'm just going to call it vestings because I can't say that other name over and over again. They're roughly the same price, but Clean Armor is just better. It's like, it's stronger. It's not faster necessarily, because like if you had a big enough light for vestings, you could like instantly cure it. But it's like, you're talking about 1 minute versus 2 minutes though. That's what we're talking about. But anyways, those tables are going to be made out of hard maple. We're going to be using Clean Armor to finish them. We already have all the C channel we need to to put in the backs of them. We already have all the table bases. So if you want to see like the stuff we've been up to, most of it has actually been on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, because YouTube isn't friendly to like shorts that are over a minute long, and for some reason they've mostly been between like 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, because like it's just so hard to cram everything into 1 minute. And then like the longer form videos, like I kind of already touched on that. I've had trouble sitting down to edit those. So, anyways. I appreciate you, Dean, for tuning into the live stream. I saw your message. And for anyone else who watches this video, I hope you're entertained, and maybe you learned something, or at least you learned about us. Have a good day.